These people have lost their minds. You're dealing with serious people, like the people who are supposed to be leading the Democratic Party, who are like, that's our guy.
You've got this situation where it's a Democrat civil war, where the grassroots, the Bernie, you could say, inspired grassroots, is the group that's like, we want to fight, we want to, we want someone in there who's going to fight authoritarianism and give us communism, which is what they have the grassroots ginned up to believe.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago politician Dick Durbin. Now, Durbin has a new scheme. He's doing the dirty work to benefit corporate megastores. Durbin's bill could cut corners on your credit card security, putting your personal data at risk. Big chain retailers and warehouse stores want to inflate their profits, and liberal Dick Durbin would help them do it. Tell senators, say no to the megastores and Dick Durbin. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Buy low, sell high, pocket the difference. That's how big tax-exempt hospitals abuse the 340B markup program, like charging thousands of dollars for medicines they might have bought for a penny. Medicine markups are a hidden tax on patients, employers, and taxpayers. If patients aren't benefiting, where's the money going? It's time for Congress to fix 340B. Visit phrma.org/340B markup to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. It's time for our main event.
Good Thursday to you. Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety program. We got a very big show for you today. I am Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. As always, there's a bit of a Democratic civil war going on. They still have the government shut down, and there's just an incredible amount of hilarious content. Fellas, it's going to be a real pleasure, don't you think?
I mean, that's the thing. We kind of got into this when we were making fun of the AOC Bernie Sanders town hall of like, they need to reopen the government because idle hands are the tool of the devil. And if the government is shut down, they're just going to fight each other. Yeah. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, that is what's happening here. And unfortunately, when the government is shut down and nobody has anything to do, they start passing the mic around like open mic night. Mm-hmm. And there are a few Democratic members of Congress, I would say more than a few, they shouldn't have a microphone.
You know, during the real Civil War for America, the correspondents would sit on a hill overlooking the battlefield, and they would report in great detail every last thing that happened. And that is precisely what the Ruthless Variety program is going to do for you with this current.
I like that.
Yeah, we've got that is a very good lay of the land.
Thank you, Ken Burns.
Yeah, that is a little Ken Burns, isn't it? Yeah,
that's
she should play some backdrop music to all of that.
Civil War was fought in 10,000 places.
Shokin's Farewell.
There you go. Yeah. That's the song.
That's it. That's it. So we're going to cover this about what's going on the Hill and everything else, and then we're going to get into this Maine situation with this Senate candidate.
Oh, yeah.
And the establishment versus the Bernie crowd. Mm-hmm. And it's so good. I mean, literally, it's worth your time just to stick around and laugh. Remember to like and subscribe on the YouTube, because some of the stuff you have to see to believe. And I know a lot of you listen, but you're going to want to click when you get to the office to see this thing, because there's some stuff that's incredible. We also have the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, on this episode. And for those of you unfamiliar with Dan Driscoll, he's a hell of a guy. I mean, this dude's great. They're doing really important things at the Army under his leadership, but he's also just a super relatable human being. We have some yucks, and he talks about what he's up to. You're not going to want to miss that in the back half. Then we play a game. It's King of the Hill Day. So we do that too. And there's some great stuff out there. So just strap in and enjoy. Let's start with the Civil War here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you put up graphic 1, if you don't mind, this is an article in The Hill where the text reads, "People are going to get hammered." And this is a Democrat talking about the position that they're in, knowing that there was no strategy to get out of a government shutdown and no real tangible thing that could be given for them to do something other than what it is that they're doing. So people are going to get hammered if they vote for the House-passed bill to reopen the government and keep it funded through November 21, said one Democratic senator. So we're not talking about some staff member that's like going outside the lines. Like this is a senator who requested anonymity. They want anonymity so they could talk candidly about their party.
Real profile and courage.
Seriously.
Well, that's the way you do it in the Democratic Party these days. A second person familiar with the political dynamics within Senate Democratic caucus who spoke to The Hill ahead of the No Kings protest last weekend said that centrist senators are fearful of breaking with leaders while party activists are planning anti-Trump rallies. So, like you'll recall a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, Speaker Johnson got wind of the whole No Kings plan. He was like, look, they're not going to do anything until they do that because they don't want to like have any capitulation before that big rally.
Yeah.
And then our own very own Smash White House correspondent Smasherson, I think really intellectually broke down something that nobody was talking about. Now everybody's starting
everyone's
to talk.
picked it up.
I mean, I did an interview on your hypothesis today on Fox about how they were closing the government in large part to try to goose turnout in Virginia to win these off-year elections, which is something in the last episode that Smash went into great detail about, and I think it's probably right.
No, that's it's exactly right in the idea that the No Kings rally was all about celebrating the leftists and their big ideas and their signs and everything. Democrats use that as GOTV all weekend long. That was their entire purpose.
It wasn't just about George Conway and transing his dog.
That's what they wanted you to think.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they're stealing elections.
So here's the quote. We would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine.
That
Unquote.
That's an incredible line. I want to reread that, folks. This is concerning this shutdown. Direct quote you heard right here in The Hill. We would have enough votes if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine.
Yep.
We have seen time and time again, the Democrats have done this to themselves. Their grassroots is now essentially deranged and violent. That's just become an absolute fact. That can't be debated. That's a fact. To the point where they're saying, we can't reopen the government. We're scared of getting guillotined.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we saw this months ago.
In the Politico piece.
In the Politico piece,
Yep.
it's the same thing. They looked at all of the polling there, and it was our voters, this is Democrat insiders talking, our voters are demanding blood, get arrested. You know, like what they wanted is the Democrats to push back. What I find fascinating in all of this, even beyond the rhetoric itself, and it's not just here in the Hill or in the Politico piece, but like at those No Kings protests, you saw the signs that was Kings get guillotines.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
like this isn't actually rhetorical. Like they actually mean what they say in all of this. But how fascinating in this Hill piece, you read the earlier part of it, and it's a House-passed bill to fund the government through November 21st.
With no changes.
A month away. Like if Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate came together and they were like, yeah, I think we're kind of running out of time here. This fund, even if we open the government, it only lasts another month. They can't even do that.
No.
They couldn't be like, hey, man, maybe we'll figure it out in a month. No, that would be an unholy capitulation to Donald Trump,
Yes.
the fascist dictator,
Yep.
if they just fund the government for another month to buy them time to negotiate.
And unless, like, if you missed a few episodes where we talked about this, recall that we're talking about this, it's continuing resolution. But what you're saying is entirely true in that it's just changing the current budget for a period of time until they can get these other changes to be approved. This is a budget that was written by Democrats and passed by Democrats and voted on as late as last March and approved almost unanimously by Democrats. Like, this is not some like right-wing agenda. This is their fucking budget.
Right.
That they're like, no, we're going to shut the government down, which makes the point that you were making even more stark, in that it's like, talk about the modest situation that they can't wrap it because you got to fight. You got to show all this fight. Oh, if I'm showing all this, all kayfabe. Oh, if I'm showing all this fight, Let's show all this fight to the grassroots and we're going to be all set.
Right.
So there is an element that, unlike the senators who can speak with anonymity, the ones that choose to speak out in the open have to go through the whole theatrical routine, right? Like they're the leaders, or they have some kind of a leading edge of the fight that they're bringing to Washington. This is a hysterical clip, clip one of maybe the dumbest senator. Probably second to Maisie.
It's become a tough
Rudolph.
contest.
Yeah.
But this guy has long been one of the dumbest senators that has ever graced the body. Senator Merkley, in whatever it is that he's up to on the Senate floor in clip one.
President Trump is shredding our Constitution. We will work with you, but you've got to fix.
Oh, his guy's
these
falling
tax
asleep.
Credits
His staffer falling asleep during the speech.
about
So compelling.
the situation we are in, the threat to our republic.
It's just electric.
To send in the National Guard whenever the president wants.
And just straight yawning, dude.
Using Title X, he's threatened that change from time to time in America. Just to provide a couple of examples,
Bro.
the early Senate.
Dude, if you're not, this is why I said you got to be on video at some level, because
do.
it was like I don't know. How long did he ultimately go? It was like 17 plus hours.
15, it said.
Yeah, 15 plus hours. Whatever it is that he
all
did.
night.
But this is like what they do. You saw Cory Booker do this and everybody else for no point whatsoever. But they decide, wow, I'm going to speak for hours on end about the injustices that are a CR, a continued resolution. The same thing that you're living under for another 30 days. Oh, my God. We couldn't possibly do it. So he gets on the floor. He does this for 15 plus hours. His staff member in the clip that we just played couldn't take it. He couldn't take it. It looked like he had narcolepsy. I mean, this cat was, and first of all, his voice, Merkley, in and of itself, he can make nothing interesting.
No, it's like
dude,
taking an Ambien listening to him.
In one of the best things, you have to put yourself inside of that office, in the Merkley office, the delusions of grandeur. When he took the floor, all he saw was, you know what? I am Charles Lindbergh in the spirit of St. Louis flying over the Atlantic, and tonight is my night. And he nobody watched. Not even the reporters who were paid to watch. They didn't watch.
They didn't watch. So Daily Wire put that clip together, which is just fantastic. You can see their own staff falling asleep and not believing a lick of any of it, right? So you're like, okay, Democrats at one level under anonymity are saying like, dude, we just want to open this thing up, but the base is crazy and we don't want to deal with this thing. And then you get the on the record, like, oh, we are here to take the fight to God knows what. They don't even know what, but they're just going to speak about all of that. And then occasionally what you get is somebody who just says the truth out loud. And Schumer did it a few weeks ago when he said this is going great for us. Like he's depriving the federal government and everybody who makes a living, military, everything, all of their paychecks and whatever. And he's like, no, this is great for us. Well, what happened next was is she the whip?
Yeah,
she is.
Yeah, House Whip.
She's a whip. This is Katherine Clark in 1A.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have.
Bro, to say that, like, yeah, families are going to suffer, but we'll use suffering families as leverage is, first off, something no American should accept and operate under. But to be a publicly elected official and to believe that is like, resign. You're in the wrong job.
It's like, I'm very sorry, American people, that I'm making your life demonstrably worse. But you have to understand, you're a really good hostage right now.
Dude, that is it.
Well, I feel like we've heard that before. Where have we heard that?
Leeeverage.
There it was.
Yeah, Sheldon Whitehouse.
Leeeverage.
Fellow Northeasterner. Apparently she hasn't learned how to pronounce it quite as well as
Leeeverage.
Dude, my favorite part about his pronunciation, it's not just the hard E thing, which is like, it's demonstrably not the way that you, in our language, say that word. He adds at the end, it's not an AGE. It's like a ATCH. Listen to it carefully.
Leeverage.
Leeverage.
Rich, yeah.
He just made up a word. It's leverage.
I think there's a term for it, though, like the North Atlantic affectation. Like John Kerry was famous for having it. I think a lot of the, Georgetown cocktail, McLean set y'all hang with would probably talk like that, too.
Well, he also has an incredibly unfortunate speech impediment.
Yeah. I mean,
if you've watched it over the years, there's I don't know if you would qualify it as a lateral lisp or if it's just your run-of-the-mill lisp, but it's a lisp nevertheless.
And the thing is that, like, the way these people, when they're talking about leverage or, like, leverage, I think Duncan perfectly describes it. They essentially see the American people as a hostage for them to take, which is disgusting. Any American should think that's horrid, let alone someone who's been elected to public office. They should all be ashamed of themselves.
I think you're short-selling leverage. I think that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. Dude, the whole thing gets crazier from here. The shutdown is only one front, by the way, of this whole Democratic Civil War. We just showed you both sides of that. This Maine Senate primary for the right to get your ass kicked by Susan Collins, who has like a string of skulls of people that she has summarily defeated in the great state of Maine, is unbelievable. And yet there are
Someone showed up with their own skull, but it wasn't the way you'd want.
Yeah.
It's a good tease.
It was a little different. We're going to get to all of that right after this.
America's demand for energy is rising rapidly, and at a time when American families can least afford an energy shortage. But for decades, critical energy projects have been blocked, limiting our access to reliable, affordable American energy and putting America's energy dominance at risk. The solution is obvious. Overhaul the broken energy permitting process. Make it faster and simpler. Innovation, a strong workforce, abundant oil and gas. We have it all right here in the USA. Let's put America first and political agendas last. We can power our own country, support thousands of good-paying American jobs, and unleash American energy to be bigger and better than ever before. Because when America builds, America wins. Read API's plan to secure America's future at permittingreformnow.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
Alzheimer's doesn't start when the memory fades. It can begin decades earlier, quietly in the brain. Science is advancing to better fight this disease. New tools can help doctors detect Alzheimer's early, when we have the best chance to slow it down. Early detection means more time, more birthdays, more anniversaries, more moments that matter. Let's act sooner, not later. Learn more at pfcdalz.org. Paid for by the Partnership to Fight Chronic Disease.
All right, so another front of the Democratic Civil War is a particularly fun one, in that the great state of Maine, somewhere that has been blue for quite some time, has had but one really significant problem for Democrats, and that they can't seem to unseat someone who perfectly represents their constituency in Susan Collins, who's been a Republican senator for quite some time. Now, not every Republican agrees with her day in and day out, but there's a reason for that, is because she represents the great people of Maine and perfectly represents the great people of Maine.
Sometimes to the Republicans' detriment, sometimes to Democrat. It is Maine first, everything else.
It totally is. So, but they've spun themselves into circles trying to figure out who's the best candidate to take this woman on, because it all has to be some sort of made up genre narrative that doesn't exist, because she literally is hitting like straight down the middle in terms of representation of that state. And so they've run young people, they've run olds. Not surprisingly, Chuck Schumer, he's chosen an old. Let's play clip 2 and who he wants.
You mentioned Maine at the top. There's obviously an important Senate race happening there. Are you supporting Governor Janet Mills in the primary, and do you consider Graham Platner's recently unearthed comments disqualifying?
Look, I'll let the people of Maine decide the second. We think that Janet Mills is the best candidate to retire Susan Collins. She's a tested two-term governor, and the people of Maine have an enormous amount of affection and respect for her. Yes.
All right. So Janet Mills is like 175 years old. Like, this lady is unrelatable to anybody who's under 50.
No,
Completely.
under 80, dude, for real.
I mean, dude, there are some politicians that act old that aren't, and then there's some politicians that are just plain old. Janet Mills is the just plain old.
But you knew
category.
she was the establishment favorite when the New York Times led their paper with an article about her instead of the shutdown.
Exactly right. I mean,
it
honestly, it really is, and this is a part of what they do on the undercard. It's kind of like when we talked about late night comedy shows and their bookings of just like random common card Democrats. They're always sort of strategic to try to emphasize certain people that have absolutely no significance on your life whatsoever, but they're not funny, but they just kind of put them out there. New York Times has done this for a decade or more, where they'll highlight a totally insignificant political figure and tell the story, the great significance of Janet Mills, a mid-septuagenarian who's going to enter as a freshman senator if she wins and serve like maybe 6 years before she's incapacitated.
But there's been a playbook that the Democratic establishment has used in the Trump era to roll out a lot of these like B and C tier statewide candidates for United States Senate. Like, you know, it's not like Chuck Schumer's exactly batting 1,000 here. Let's just be honest, you know? I mean, you look at like Beto O'Rourke, Jamie Harrison, Amy McGrath, and then you look at like, you know, even go back to like Phil Bredesen or like Evan Bayh, right? Or Ted Strickland in Ohio. Like for a long time, the Democratic establishment has muscled out the grassroots Bernie bros of their party to anoint these candidates who raise $100 million and then eat shit and lose by 20 points. I mean, like it is just, it's like.
And so that's what's making this situation so incredible. And it was hinted at in that clip is Schumer has his establishment candidate, Democrat, running in that, but they're getting primaried by Bernie's pick.
Yep.
So you've got this situation where it's a Democrat civil war, where the grassroots, the Bernie, you could say, inspired grassroots, is the group that's like, we want to fight, we want to, we want someone in there who's going to fight authoritarianism and give us communism, which is what they have the grassroots ginned up to believe. And apparently they've got a candidate.
Well, to wit, there is a article by Jonathan Martin in Politico that covers some of this, entitled "Democrats Keep Falling for Political Fantasies. When Will They Learn?" Democrats keep falling for charismatic newcomers and viral candidates, and it keeps costing them elections. Platner is the person that you're talking about here, the Bernie bro. And we're about to get into this in a very significant way. So if you don't know who he is, we're about to expound upon all of that. It's the latest example. A military veteran turned oysterman who looked the hirsute part of the Mainer's populist candidacy seemed to be an immaculate conception. The contributions piled up. The profiles were published. And then suddenly there was a disruption of the formula, or maybe there was an acceleration. Once his Democratic rival, Maine Governor Janet Mills, entered the race, and that's the Schumer situation, Platner was hit with a nor'easter of oppo research that had added value of being his own damning words. Rationalizing political violence, calling himself a communist, referring to all police as bastards, and calling himself a, quote, Antifa super soldier. Platner's paper trail was the stuff of Senator Susan Collins' dreams. And that was before Platner tried to get ahead of the next hit by revealing the apparent Nazi tattoo that he had tapped tattooed on his naked torso. I mean, first of all, hats off, J-Mark. Like, the writing is fantastic.
I love the nor'easter.
The nor'easter.
Yeah. Good color.
Yeah, it's good color. But so what happened, and this is kind of the way that Democrats are now trying to get ahead of some of this stuff, is that, you know, if you're like a progressive Bernie bro left guy who's got a bunch of shit coming out, be like, yeah, dude, I'm definitely molested kids, but like I need to get around that. I got to go show up at some like credentialed outfit. And the funniest transformation of the pod bros is that they went from the ultimate establishment in being Barack Obama's people to like pretending to be a progressive leftist. Remember, they reclaimed their whole pro-Israel stance and all of a sudden started to be like free Palestine.
Yeah, well, that's what they had to do. So one of them was on Architectural Digest because he bought this massive house in the Hollywood Hills because they got all that money, you know. They get VC money. They've gotten money from, what's his name?
George Soros.
Soros, yeah. Soros has 10% of that company. So that money was put to use getting them these massive mansions in Los Angeles. But once that came out in Architectural Digest, they're like, oh, wait. Our employees are trying to unionize. Like, word is out. We've got money. We've got to act like we're one of you. Yeah. And so they've tried to take this, like, Bernie leftward tilt.
I think that's part of it, dude. But I think the other thing is
generational.
They defended to the hilt Biden until it proved untenable that they couldn't defend it. And then it was Kamala's the best candidate. And then she ate shit. Yeah. And so now they're sort of the only way they can get right with both their employees and the grassroots of the Democratic Party that wants guillotines and calls for blood is to now reinvent themselves as this opposition.
That's exactly
to the
right.
establishment.
And so they are supporting this lunatic. And Schumer, on the other side, is like, no. The governor, she may be old, but assisted living is still living. So she's our candidate.
A place for mom is right here in the United States Senate. So you put a quarter in these fellas' back, and they'll tell you anything you want to hear.
Yeah.
And so Graham Platner decides to show up to preview Oppo that's coming out on him. Mm-hmm. He wants to frame this in a way that he can control.
Also, like, shout out to the people working at his campaign. Like, whoa. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get ahead of the Nazi tattoo, and we're going to tell everyone about it.
Yeah. Dude, hey, bud, they've heard of the Nazi
like, listen,
tattoo.
We got a playbook for the Nazi tattoo. What you do is you tell everyone about
just
the Nazi tattoo.
Just go to the Pop Bros. You just have to put a quarter in their back. They'll say anything. So that's what happens in clip 2A.
In kind of a non-traditional campaign move, your team actually shared some opposition research on you with me. It's a video from, I believe, a decade ago. Let's just watch an excerpt, and then we should talk about it.
So, what they were referring to, do we have an image straight up of it?
Well, it's just that's our image is the video of,
Yeah, so for the folks who are only audio, we have now on YouTube, you should go to YouTube subscribe because you get this stuff. We have frozen the frame of him dancing without a shirt because on his chest is a Nazi tattoo for the Totenkopf SS, that skull and crossbones. It's not your regular, this is not like your I like pirates skull and crossbones. This is the insignia of an SS division. Which is like, listen, I want to come clean about something. I've got a Nazi tattoo. And the Pod Save guys are like absolutely normal.
Where do they find these people?
I know.
Where do they find these people?
Think about this. Like, you're like, oh, the Nazi tattoo.
Also, I love that
I can't run for office with that.
It's got the crooked, their media company's logo in the top right next to a guy with a Nazi tattoo on his shirt. And they're like, we're going to side with the guy with the Nazi tattoo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's just very funny, dude, that you've got libs on Twitter being like, Donald Trump is destroying the White House and democracy by building a ballroom. He's a fascist and a Nazi. And they're like, well, I mean, who hasn't got a regrettable tattoo?
Well, wasn't even that. It was like and Bernie was doing the. He was deployed in very dangerous situations, and you get all kinds of tattoos. Wolf, you were deployed in pretty serious situations, pal. Was it a part of your platoon's practice to go get Nazi tattoos?
Fuck no.
That's a heavy no.
Also, can we put that picture back up one more time?
Yeah.
He's not oyster farming here in this picture, but I only see one tattoo. It's not like it's a sleeve on each arm.
There's another one on the arm.
Maybe he's got another.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it is front and center.
Front and center.
Yeah, it's right on the chest where he's got that tattoo, and it's a Nazi tattoo. And so, like, you wouldn't just miss that for a decade and not understand that you don't have a Nazi tattoo. What do you got?
So his rollout of this attempt to like get right with people and be like, listen, here's what you do when you have a Nazi tattoo. You go on Pod Save and you tell everyone and then they'll forgive you. That didn't work out. People are like, I haven't seen this until now, and it is way worse than what I had read. He announces, can I get graphic too? Maine Senate candidate Graham Platner tells AP he got a new tattoo to cover one seen as a Nazi symbol. It gets better, folks. Can I get graphic 3 of the... So this is, for folks not familiar, this is for Norse mythology enthusiasts. This is Fenrir, which is also used as Nazi symbology.
Okay, well, in fairness, it's just very Nazi adjacent.
But dude, let's just set that aside, right? The whole mythology and all of the stuff of appropriating that the Nazis did of Norse mythology and all of that. Just set that aside for a second. We have entered a new realm of American politics where you can just be some fucking schmo and you're like, hey, I'm going to run for office. And all of a sudden you have like Bernie showing up being like, yeah, that's our guy. We like this guy. He's great. And you're like, all right, I got it. And they're like, you have a Nazi tattoo? And he's like, yeah. You're like, well, you're going to have to change that shit.
You know what? We might be going back. This might be the Democrats are going back to their roots of like, when you interview someone to see if you want to endorse them, it's going back to the Ted Kennedy method of like, I'm going to need you to undress.
I gotta see your ass.
Gotta make sure.
I gotta see your ass. But think of an era of Democratic candidates where they're literally willing to put pen to body for irretrievable changes to body art that they put like literally on their front, on their chest, in order to be somehow acceptable to one segment of the party. Like, I've seen people do 180s. I've seen people reinvent themselves. I have seen people lie bald-faced like Kamala working at the McDonald's, right? I've seen all of that. That is a time as old, a tale as old as time. What I have not seen is somebody like willing to tattoo their fucking chest in order to just be acceptable as a candidate in a Democratic primary.
And also,
this is new.
It didn't occur to you in the past, 10 years that maybe if you truly believe this was a bad decision and regrettable to get a Nazi tattoo, why did you wait until you're running for office? Because then it becomes like your motivation isn't to do the right thing. Your motivation is to hope to get enough votes.
And then why is he replacing it with like some ancient Norse
He's like,
mythology?
Listen, I just like getting Nazi adjacent tattoos, bro. Like,
I'm sorry. That's what I want.
Isn't he like a Patriots fan or anything? Like, how about like Mom or something?
But also, dude, has it not occurred to anybody he's not running as a billboard? Like, he's running as you want to trust his judgment. Well, the judgment led him to put a Nazi tattoo in the middle of his chest. Right. The billboard component is like, yeah, you can change the Nazi tattoo to whatever the fuck that is. Right. What is it called?
Fenrir, the wolf. The Norse wolf.
Fenrir, the Norse wolf?
It would have been worse if his campaign staff's like, so did you get the tattoo inked over? He's like, yeah, so I saw this movie, American History X, and I copied this chest tattoo.
And they're like, yeah, great idea.
Good plot. I thought it had a lot going for it. Very good acting by Edward Norton. Really bulked up for that film.
Oh, I mean, dude, shredded.
mean, dude, but that's what we're dealing. This is the insanity. This is why we have led the show with this for the last, 3 weeks. These people have lost their minds. You're dealing with serious people, like the people who are supposed to be leading the Democratic Party, who are like, that's our guy. And they're like, shit, he's got a Nazi tattoo. Can we just get like a Norse mythology or something?
Listen, we're not okay with the direct Nazi, but Nazi adjacent?
Yeah, adjacent is fine. We can defend adjacent.
Amazing.
And then he does it, and they're like, see, it's fine. He decided he was going to change his body yesterday after he produced the entirety of the dancing, which was, by the way, Miley Cyrus's wrecking ball that he's dancing around in a bar with his shirt off to. Ridiculous. Again, maybe disqualifying, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know Maine all that well. But all of this is not how he would do, not his judgment, not how you would consider things, because socialist is what it is, right? He said
communist. He said straight up
communist,
and called himself an Antifa super soldier.
Communist.
Like Antifa's not an idea, right?
But the best part is that Schumer is like, see, this guy is a problem. That's why you need to elect someone on an oxygen machine.
Like your choices are the crypt keeper or the dude who's getting multiple Nazi adjacent.
You see, you have to trust my judgment. I know what I'm talking about.
I think worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out for him in Maine, he could always run again in Dearborn.
Oh my God!
Holy shit!
Well, there is a Michigan problem. There is and they like to see Nazi adjacent stuff, don't they? They certainly do. All right, so Jonathan Martin's article concludes, and this is a perfect capstone, and this is where we get close to the bone. It's not as though outsider candidates are emerging from thin air. Who do you think is crafting those viral videos? If you think it's an oysterman in their spare time or Amy McGrath's former flight crew and not another set of consultants, I've got a lobster roll for under $10 to sell you.
It's good writing.
If you think a former Blackwater employee who tended bar at the Tune Inn, notable Capitol Hill bar, and attended George Washington University right here in D.C., is a total outsider, I've got $5. I've got a $5 one to sell you. Good writing.
Very good writing.
Good writing.
Very good writing.
But that is, I think, cutting to the core of what is today's Democratic Party.
Yep.
There is an ideological battle internally, and there's also a generational battle that's happening internally. But when it comes to the external consumption of both, they're equally fraudulent.
Yep.
Both
all,
of them are
at
a
the end
lie.
of the day, are part of this Democrat machine.
They're both
That's why
a lie.
they lack in authenticity. That's why they can't connect to voters. That's why Trump won the popular vote and the electoral vote, is because it's all consultanted out, poll-tested consultant slop. And that's what they serve on.
The DNC is still paying off Kamala Harris's debt a year later, and they don't even know how much there is still remaining. It's like Enron was her accountant. It's unbelievable.
How can she have debt? $1.5 billion.
Someone has to pay for like Oprah and Beyonce and everyone to show up.
Well, I mean, dude, they
couldn't figure out how to get voters to show up, but they got them to show up.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. It genuinely is. But this is the world that we're dealing with. So it leads to us to our question of the day.
One of the best I think we could have ever had.
If a progressive leftist has to get a tattoo for their political career to launch, what would it be?
I want to see some good ones.
I want to see some good ones. The more descriptive, the better. Please, just
be creative.
Use your best.
This will be good.
It's gonna be fantastic. I can think about a dozen that I would go with, but like our people always find out
100%.
like 100 more. So come at us with all of that. When you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety program, we read every single one of them. We get back to you the very next episode with a summary of the absolute best, and we're going to do that on that. When we come back, we're going to get to your comments from last episode when we asked, will the Dems no king strategy early vote that Ashbrook articulated work? Right after this.
Only 58% of Americans today say they're proud to be American, the lowest number ever recorded. That's not just sad, it is very dangerous, because if we forget what makes America special, we risk losing it. That's why Americans for Prosperity is launching the One Small Step campaign, a bold nationwide initiative to reconnect Americans with our founding principles that sparked unparalleled innovation and prosperity. It's not just a celebration, it's a call to action. Through the 250,000 Steps for Freedom Challenge, AFP is partnering with the grassroots in all 50 states to take meaningful steps that defend freedom and advance opportunity. Call your representative, attend a local event, knock on a door, talk to your neighbors. Every single step counts, and every step moves us closer to a more perfect union. Go to takeonesmallstep.com to learn more, then join the challenge at afpvolunteer.com.
Okay, so your question of the day from Tuesday was, will the Dems no kings early vote strategy work? You heard a lot about that from Smash. He articulated the theory of the case, which I think is a very good one. You came up with some great answers, and we always start with a voice.
First one from Lisa Jo Elsis. Lisa Jo writes, asking if the no king strategy will work is the same as asking if Marie Antoinette's subjects enjoyed the cake. Their back-ass word strategy is doomed to fail. Lisa Jo, I sure hope you're
Here's
right.
hoping.
Sure hope you're right. All right, comment 2, Duncan.
This is from David Schwartz. David writes, the plan to shut down the government will not work to save the Virginia, New Jersey elections because hundreds of thousands of Democrat voters have been deported.
Excellent.
Very funny.
Very, very good. All right, comment 3, Smug.
Comment 3 is from JR. JR writes, will the Dem strategy of using the protest to gin up votes work? Unfortunately, yes. The left only has emotion, and the only emotions they have are fear, rage, and hate. I kind of agree with that. It relies on lies and gullible voters, but their base is indoctrinated kids and scared seniors, both of whom live in a bubble. GOP needs Trump energy to get out the vote because, unlike the left, we have lives and politics falls by the wayside in off-year elections. That's a point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a point, man. And I just have to say, like, following up on the analysis that we did on Tuesday, and we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to have some Virginia officials in here, and we're going to talk a lot about New Jersey and Virginia to try to contextualize all of that before Election Day in November. But they have had a huge advantage in off-year elections. They just have. Now, we're talking about 2 blue states. I mean, these aren't states that Trump has ever won.
Right.
And other than the Youngkin election in 21, which is a huge rejection of COVID policies and Joe Biden and the Democratic left and all of that, Terry McAuliffe, the ultimate establishment Democrat, it's few and far between. Like,
you got to go back to 2009.
You got to go back to 2009 with Christie and McDonald before you ever get into a point where Republicans had any success at all.
You mentioned that the president came up short in those states. Look no further than the registration advantage Democrats have in New Jersey, which is 850,000 more Democrats in New Jersey are registered. In the state of Virginia, it's 1.3 million more Democrats than Republicans. So
it's a big number. What I look for is not necessarily top of the ticket situations in Virginia. Miaris is obviously somebody we got to try to win that situation. I really want us to beat Abigail Spanberger, no question. But it's a blue state in an off-year election where Republicans just won. I mean, all of the historical stuff are going against you. But I look at total turnout. And if it follows the 2018-2022 model of Republicans underperforming in a significant way, it raises concerns for me. And that's not necessarily what the head-to-head is. It's whether or not people get out or not. And that's kind of what we're going to be watching. But we're going to get into a lot more of all of that in the days to come and give you a good idea of what you can expect on Election Day in November for those 2 specials. When we come back, we've got King of the Hill.
Yes.
It's a big game day here on the Ruthless Friday program right after this. Okay, our signature game here on the Ruthless Variety program. It's King of the Hill. I lost last week, and so who's our champion?
Conway, George Conway.
Oh my gosh, he's had a heater too. He's really had a heater.
Yeah, I mean he's bringing good content. He had some great No Kings content, and
don't forget the trans dog.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't want to get cocky here, but I feel pretty good.
Okay.
And Ashbrook?
Yeah, he's going to be hard to beat, but this week I've got Sarah Longwell.
Interesting.
Doing her best to keep up with George Conway.
Not her first time, but she's a lightly used competitor here on King of the Hill. Wolf just died. It's so good.
It's good.
All right, let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting from her own publication, Sarah Longwell. And now, in the blue corner, fighting formally from the Lincoln Project, clean-shaven and on the market, current champion of the world, George Conway.
Clean-shaven on the market. The best part is that the intro changes over time. We do the show long enough, we get each iteration of life.
Yeah.
This guy ought to just have it. There should be like a mixtape.
I tried telling Conway, man, just apologize to your wife and go home because it's a mess.
Well, you gave him, it's like you're a corporate lawyer, dog.
Yeah, go back to work, dude.
Go back to work. Okay, well, I guess I'm the bailiff. You're the judge,
That's
Smuggles. Right. And so...
and we will suffer no fools. We're running a tight court this week.
Right, I appreciate that, Judge, and apt, I think, from the bailiff. We're witnessing history with George. You know, we've seen so many iterations of him as an operative, and I think we need to start with exhibit number 7. My corgi Clyde
Jesus, dude.
is coming to #NoKings. You can preview his outfit here. This is a link to a video where I guess he's snuggling and kissing his corgi. Oh my God. You can join us everywhere. And he has a URL to a map of No Kings protests. While we're at it, how much money do you think I should stuff into the kava bag in the video?
What?
He's alluding to the fact that George Soros is funding all these protests. And
he's trying to be ironic about it?
Yeah. He's kind of trying to be a little tongue-in-cheek.
As if he's not paid by those people?
Yeah, right.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what Sarah Longwell has.
Okay, former Republican Sarah Longwell quote tweeting Matt Iglesias in exhibit number 13, as most Republicans typically do on a regular basis. Quote tweet Matt Iglesias to say and one, buddy. She says, this is true. Trump's poll numbers are down. The number of people protesting are up. And the people who are protesting are the kind of people who show up in a midterm election. And now, what I would like to point out in this tweet specifically, maybe not quite as funny as what George Conway said, however, it's on genre, and she is letting the game up in that last sentence.
Yep.
The people who show up in a midterm election, she is part of the GOTV effort that was masqueraded as No King.
I think she's just a bad pollster.
So this is strong because I think Ashbrook connected the dots first.
Yeah.
You're going to start seeing it on the news. You're going to start seeing elected officials talk about it. But Ashbrook connected the dots first that this No Kings is tied specifically as a GOTV event. And then for you to specifically bring that idea out during King of the Hill, huge points for that. First round goes to Ashbrook.
Ooh. Oh, boy, an upset. Okay. Round 2, Longwell has to come back at it.
Exhibit number 12, please, as she tries to dunk on Matt Walsh. And Matt's tweeting something here, and she says on top of him, to be fair, people simply motivated on to another... People simply moved on to another story of a Trumper talking about how he has a, quote, Nazi streak in a group chat. But this time the person is Donald Trump's nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel. And she's trying to put a guy in a body bag by way of Matt Walsh.
Well, if it would please the court as a bailiff and a neutral arbiter, what she's referring to is a nominee that Donald Trump had put up that during the course of ferreting out the nomination process, there were some disturbing rhetoric that had sort of Nazi ties. The majority leader, John Thune, called for that nomination to be withdrawn. That is in stark contrast, obviously, to what we've seen from Abigail Spanberger with this
Jay
Jones situation, and with all the Bernie bros and everything else with the frickin' tattoo guy.
The Nazi oysterman.
Yeah.
Nazi
which I think...
Which is just like a fact of life now, dude. There's just some Nazi
What's
guy.
up with that?
I mean, it's just crazy, dude.
How are we talking about
That's
this?
what I'm saying. All right,
But it does add, my point is that the contextualizing of what it is that she's saying misses what has happened. So I just felt the need to provide that.
Okay.
Good context.
Exhibit number 3, please. George Conway is quote tweeting Peter Baker. Just by way of background, every lib media personality has been chomping at the bit for Trump's peace deal in the Middle East to fail.
Yes.
Which is nuts.
We know it's obviously a complicated region where there's violence
Yeah,
typically all the time.
Free Palestine unless it's a Trump win, in which case continue bombing, please.
Right. Please end the genocide. But please, no, Trump, you're not allowed to end the genocide.
Continue the genocide,
yeah,
please.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, Peter Baker, just to sort of vaguely describe it, is talking about, how there's new strikes that are happening in Gaza after the peace deal. And it's quote tweeted by George Conway, and he says, "This all makes sense. I mean, how could it be otherwise that Donald Trump would try to win a Nobel Peace Prize with a fake peace agreement?"
What a piece of garbage, dude.
Oh, man.
That's just a straight up W.
Yeah, it's
Conway,
a W.
Conway gets that round.
Let's go.
This is going to 3.
Dude, that is good.
It's a real war of attrition here.
Yeah, round 3. Boy, oh boy. The champion has the floor.
Okay. Exhibit number 2. This is a quote tweet of a New York Times breaking news alert that Donald Trump might sue the Justice Department for all of the miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
When he was a candidate
for the
president,
hundreds of millions of dollars of legal fees that he had to pay,
he had to
for
pay numerous jurisdictions and
ultimately charges that were dropped.
And George Conway quote tweets it and says, "The man should be in prison. But sure, let's pay him $250 million for being a criminal."
It's incredible that this guy's an attorney and understands the law and is at this point the grift is sad because he's just straight up lying to get those Soros bucks. But
dude, these Democrats got elected promising to put Donald Trump in prison.
That's the craziest thing.
And Donald Trump's the bad guy because he had to spend and Eric Trump was in here telling us about all of the hundreds of millions of dollars they had to spend, how they combed through all of his records of the Trump organization. He's like, bro, I wasn't involved in any of this stuff.
To protect their freedom.
Meanwhile, you've got the President of the United States' son who's on the board of Burisma and doing deals with China and taking all of this money. And Eric Trump has, his entire life combed through. They had to spend all this money on lawyers. And George Conway says they're the bad people.
Unreal.
Amazing.
Ashbrook?
Exhibit 17, please. Sarah Longwell is quote tweeting a friend of the program, a guy named Logan Dobson, who many of you know very well, who is simply providing a view on Dem protests and what they hope to achieve. Sarah Longwell writes, "This is so willfully obtuse. People want Trump to stop abusing his power and acting corruptly. Americans have never seen corruption and executive overreach at this scale, and many think it's bad. Conservatives with an ounce of integrity wouldn't act blind to this fact."
Going after.
That's
first of all,
she went after the nicest guy in Republican
It's very funny
politics.
that it's Logan Dobson
Right.
that she's responding to is an ounce of integrity. This is the least offensive dude.
Right.
But also to be Americans have never seen this kind of overreach. And we just saw Joe Biden essentially being a puppet for his aides and his son getting paid. Are you... That's being woefully obtuse.
Well, not only that, I mean, you've also got all of these indictments that we're talking about with like Comey and everybody else that is just an administration of justice. There are federal grand juries that indicted these people, all because the Biden administration just chose not to pursue. Bolton's another one. They shut down those cases because, well, they were on their side. They're on cable news.
And for that, new champion.
New champion. Longwell.
Wow.
Long live Longwell.
Yeah. I'm hoping she takes that as a challenge to up her game this week.
It might be her first W.
This is like a UMBC, like the Retrievers win in the NCAA tournament.
It is like the Retrievers win in the NCAA, beating George Conway at the height of his game.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no, that's something. You guys want a little sports?
Always.
So I think there's a young Jets fan. This was on X. Barstool tweeted it out, but a young Jets fan, the team's 0-7.
Yeah.
Right? We know a lot of Jets fans, and in some ways I can sympathize with them. My team has never been as bad as the Jets on any year. Like, they are just perennially an awful franchise. But the sentiment that this young man expresses is something, frankly, I can identify with.
I think everyone can.
I imagine many can. Can we play clip 3, please?
Y'all see them and get your thoughts on the game?
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but like, I hate this team.
Poor kid.
That is so great. But like when he says, "I was born into this," like that hit because like I grew up as a Denver Broncos fan, which was a tough thing to do. It was a very long time until we got Elway to win those back-to-back and then Peyton to win it. It was a lot of years of just an awful team. But, like, that kid's dad should be so proud because one of the things is, like, as a family...
He's going to keep
like,
coming back.
The family tradition of, like, win or lose, you support the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you always have to be proud of your sons that, like, my sons love my team.
Yeah.
Like, that has to mean a lot. Even if you have a bad team, like the Vikings...
It's unbelievable
as long as you
you're
can get
coming
your
at me with
sons
this.
To love it.
It's unbelievable
so
that you're
much.
coming at. You have no idea. You're breaking my fucking heart at this point. I can't get my kids to support my team. Frankly, I think they've got a better life.
They're great sons.
They got a better
One's
life.
a touchdown machine, and they love the Eagles.
They weren't born into this.
The twin,
they were born into
the twin pillars of NFL fandom are loyalty and misery.
Dude, that is
Can
real.
we play the
That is
clip
real.
one more time because I want you to see his face right after he says I was born into this.
So real.
And the reality, the authenticity of it, all of us and everyone who watches football with a team that just hasn't gotten it done can identify with this. Just play it one more time.
Y'all see them and get your thoughts on the game?
Watch his face.
I hate this team. I was born into this. And
Watch right here.
I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but like,
right there.
I hate this team.
That's it.
So good.
It's like he was struggling. He was like, I'm always gonna be here, but I hate this team.
So good. So good.
Dude, it's a perfect encapsulation of what we all feel.
Right there with you,
That
buddy.
kid has got 10 of 10. Yeah, Bengies.
Oh, all I could hear was Achilles Smith, Kajana Carter,
Oh my God.
Peter
yeah,
Warwick.
dude.
The 90s were difficult.
Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson.
Yeah.
You had a lot of them. Listen, we got a great interview ahead of us. Dan Driscoll, you're going to want to hear this. He's a very, very good guy, entertaining and doing important work. Well, I want to welcome to the program somebody we've been a big fan of for a number of years. He's a good guy. We got a lot of mutual friends, including the Vice President of the United States. But now he's a really big deal, and this guy is someone you're going to hear from for a whole range of issues. The Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll. How are you, sir?
I'm so excited to be here.
I mean, this is great. We've been trying to organize. It turns out you have a busy schedule.
Well, we wanted to take you out, I think, to shoot
Yeah.
stuff and get on helicopters.
At some point, we're going to do
we're
that.
going to do it. We're
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah. But you, now you've got a very big job. But for those of you who don't know what it is that Dan is in his biography, pretty impressive. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. Met my now wife, then girlfriend, asked her out summer after 8th grade.
Did she say no initially?
So she couldn't date till 16. We started dating when 15.
That's a very North
But
Carolina
I've
move.
made it pure. I've made it pure. I tell her dad often. And so grew up there, went to Chapel Hill, graduated early, joined the Army. We were at war.
Yeah.
Did all the schools, finished Ranger School, went to 10th Mountain Division, deployed to Iraq, came back, went to law school up at Yale, where I met the...
just this little school up
but
north.
met the future Vice President of the United States. I like to say 2 people have done the best with their bets. One is Usha Vance, and the second is Dan Driscoll.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're going to befriend somebody.
If you're gonna spend time making a friend, JD was a very good friend.
Because there's a lot of douches to sort through in Yale, too, right?
There were not a lot of veterans, though. And
Yeah.
so JD was a Marine veteran. He was a year in front of me. And one of the things that happens, I think, to a lot of veterans when you go to schools like that is you're super self-conscious. Like, you've been out of school for a while. I wasn't that smart to begin with. And you get there and, like, you're just so terrified of looking like a dumbass.
So you, like, sidle up to one another.
Yeah. Well, so he actually took us out. There was a thing, the Yale Veterans Association, or Yale All Veterans Association, and there were like 7 of us among the 3 classes.
Yeah.
And he took the new ones out for pizza the day before school started, and he was like, hey, man, you guys are going to be super self-conscious. You'll be fine. You belong here. Just make it a couple of months, and like all of a sudden, you'll see through the bullshit, and you'll realize that nobody's any different. Like, you're going to do just fine. And so that advice turned out to be exactly accurate. But got out, financed, did investment banking, worked at some VC fund, worked in some private equity-backed companies, and then ran for Congress in 2020. Got my ass absolutely crushed.
I was told not to bring that up.
No,
Dan.
that's fair game. It's fair game. I outraised the field, I think, like 2 or 3x the rest of the field, and came in 6th out of 12. So pretty poor showing.
But honestly, congratulations on not being in the house.
Worked out pretty well.
That did that. Yeah. No. That was a very lucky turn of events. And then went on the campaign with the vice president last year. Traveled around. I remember when he went and did your podcast.
Yeah, when we did the fishing trip in Michigan.
I was so jealous, although it seemed cold as shit. So I was happy to sleep in.
Yeah, you should have come down there. You could have seen a lot of cheating. Smug was packing frozen fish in the
fish was
coolers.
just cold. It was a very cold morning.
We had a blast, but we knew we were going to get along famously with the descriptions of you. So it's nice to finally put a face with a name. You're like a 3rd generation soldier, though.
I am. So my granddad was a Dakota in World War II. My dad was an infantryman in Vietnam. I was in we hope my son and daughter join. My nephew, I actually just saw him a couple weeks ago out in Korea. My son's son is out there. Excuse me, my brother's son.
Wow.
I imagine it's incredibly rewarding, given your family history and your own history, to be able to sit where you're sitting now and view a lot of this through the lens of your life and your family's history.
I think it, honestly, it just kind of like pisses you off more. I think that I have enough touch points and enough friends are in. My daughter, my 7-year-old, is named after one of the guys who was my platoon sergeant. His daughter at the time, when my wife and I were just dating, we met her and we just fell in love with this little 3-year-old named Lila. And we were like, man, if we ever get married and have a kid, we're naming her Lila. And so, like, that family lives in Army housing, and my buddies are still deploying, and my nephew's in. And it's just all this stupid shit from the bureaucracy. You actually see how it impacts the soldiers who are the Army.
Yeah.
And you realize that things like the Pentagon and this like bloated, calcified decision-making body, they stopped thinking about them like 30 or 40 years ago. And there's just all these like offensive outcomes that actually harm so many people and their families. And so the first couple of months, I describe myself as the mixture of like a Southern Baptist preacher and a jihadist who was just going to tear the temple down on our head. I told a lot of senators that. They didn't like it.
They're like, let's do without the Islamic jihad reference.
Yeah, I actually used that reference at a panel in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, Jesus.
And the jihadist remarks, I can let you know, it did not go over well.
There's a couple of guys that just kind of get out and slink out the room. That is incredible. Well, look, not for nothing, though. You're the first one, and this administration is the first administration that is actually doing something about what it is that you're talking about and actually trying to make this Army, the armed forces in general, our entire defense of our country work for us again as was initially envisioned. I want to play a clip off the top that just gives a little summary of what we're talking about, and then we'll get into a larger discussion. Clip 7, please.
Irene is an infantry squad vehicle, or ISV, built by General Motors for the U.S. Army and retrofitted with commercial self-driving tech by startup Applied Intuition. Wow. The vehicle is one of 40 new technologies being tested in western Louisiana by the 1st Brigade of the 101st Airborne Division.
It's great to hear that you guys love it. I come out here to hear what you don't love about it, because we go back and change it.
This Transformation and Contact Brigade, one of just 4, is the Army's most modern, equipped with AI platforms and nearly 400 drones. The unit tests new technologies, and companies embed engineers and executives like GM Defense President Steve Dumont to help troubleshoot.
Okay, that's the coolest shit ever.
Totally. I mean, for so many of us who've had friends who are enlisted and, have had a vantage point to look into the Pentagon and whatnot, it just felt like in recent years, if you can get beyond the woke stuff and everything else, like you're dealing with yesterday's situation in many regards. And then you're just not thinking about today's soldier and also like the Booz Allen $400 million contract to audit the books that never really audits the books. But like, this is a perfect example of the kind of thing that you guys are up to.
100%. And I just want to start by, I think this oftentimes sounds sycophantic, but it's not intended to be. None of this could happen without President Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth's air cover, because they are willing to basically say, we will absorb the outside forces and pressure on you as you try to innovate. Because if you look at our budget, it's $185 billion. Everyone thinks they have access to one of those dollars. And so when we did this Army Transformation Initiative, Chief and I, our General Randy George, who's incredible, we did it 8 weeks after I got there. We cut $48 billion in expected spending over the next 5 years. And every one of those dollars, some lobbyist thought it was going to a business they work for. Some congressman
like it
thought
always
it was going
does.
to their district. And they brought down the normal pressure. And President Trump and Secretary Hegseth didn't bring a single complaint to us. They instead said, if it's good for the soldier, go do it. And so what you just saw is we have over 100,000 Humvees, 104,000. And any of your buddies that have ridden in them, they were good machines. They served a purpose. They could get you down paved roads. And when an ID blast went off, they were reasonably good at protecting you. They are not built for drone warfare. They're not built for speed. They cannot get you to the places you need to do to fight in the modern war. And so it's not that we don't need any Humvees. We just need a rebalanced amount of that type of vehicle.
Right.
And so the ISV you just saw is made by GM. It is built off the Chevy Colorado and the Silverado. And 80% of the parts are commercially available. And so it's incredible. And so you're taking a thing that has millions of miles of use, you're converting it for military purposes, which has all sorts of amazing benefits that we could talk about. If you actually went into like war in the Indo-Pacific, you could just go to a Chevy store and pick up a lot of parts. Or they're giving us 3D design
don't give
files.
us the secrets.
And so you can print them.
But then you don't have to go to Lockheed Martin and pay $3 million for a screw?
You don't have to. I don't know.
I was reliably told that was the only way to do that.
No, there's a better way. And actually the private sector has solved for this already.
It's interesting, though, and I'm curious. I don't know how much you can actually tell us about this, but in looking at this innovation that you're doing, you look at like the theater of war with Ukraine and Russia, and it seems to me that we are now entering a new age of modern warfare in so many ways with technology and drones and things that you've alluded to. You look at a theater like that, and how much does what is happening right now in Ukraine and Russia impact what the future of the Army and our armed forces looks like?
So we're calling it a lot the Silicon Valley of war. And so every nation, and we have now met with a lot of ministers of defense and chiefs of staff of the different armies, every nation is paying attention, and every leader would basically agree, I think, we are at an inflection point for how humans commit violence against each other. And what the new era of violence will look like at scale is humans mixed with machines, mixed with things like generative AI in the decision-making loop, and just allowing the scale of actions to be at a scale never before seen by human beings. And so what that practically means is if you're defending against a drone swarm with 1,000 drones coming your way and you're in a congested area near an airport, the interceptors that you're going to use and how you're going to process that risk and react to it is more, it's at the cognitive load no individual brain can do, and no human can do it fast enough. And so you must have a data layer. You must have your people and your things and your sensors all sharing things in near real time and layering in machine learning to help you do that as a human being. And this is different, and it is hard, and every single army across the world is having to deal with it.
Can I ask you just, I mean, look, you showed up, you talked about your frustration with everything that you saw, but on that score, you know, I mean, clearly people are doing innovation over time and observing warfare or whatever. How much of that first sort of quarter or 2 quarters on the job was about ensuring that you prioritized what we're talking about here?
I think that first period, honestly, was just rage. I was just, you're fucking furious when you start to realize the bad, insane outcomes. So when we build things on our bases, on average, it's 68.5% more expensive than right on the other side of the fence line.
Wow.
When we are the #1 buyer or top 5 buyer of chicken. So you'd think economies of scale, we should be getting less expensive chicken than the rest of the world. We pay 2 times more. And it all goes back to the Randolph-Shepard Act of like the 1930s, where basically they wanted to give blind vendors this advantage to sell some things, some trinkets in our cafeterias or DFACs. And it's been interpreted over the years to basically mean we have to prioritize blind people when we go out for our chicken contracts. And so what practically ends up happening is you start an LLC with your blind grandma. You put 51% in her name.
Wait, come on.
Yeah, you put those shares into an irrevocable trust coming back to you. And then when we
you
go...
You just have to find a blind guy to
you
sell
literally
stuff
just
to the
have
Army?
Yep, that's
Is
exactly.
That still
and then you
on
have
the
to
books?
prioritize it. So we're...
Smug, you're in luck.
I'm writing it down. So it's 51%.
We're ready.
You guys are perfect. Yeah.
What do you guys
we'll
need?
Start a company. It's just got to be the best. And this is the best part. We don't even have to raise chickens. The Army will buy from you, and then you go find a chicken farmer who actually does the chicken farming.
Incredible.
And then, yeah, it is. And take that one anecdote, apply it to every single thing we as an Army do, and you start to see why soldiers' equipment is 30 and 40 years old. We were with a 28-year-old who was using programming equipment it's using the original code from the 90s for our air and missile defense.
Do they even have code?
Wow. I mean, the laptop was probably like
it's like
Encyclopedia Britannica's wide.
Amazing.
You know what's interesting to me is that I've got family who served, cousins, family was airborne, family was enlisted. You know, our great producer Lee Wolf served. And I just want to ask you about recruitment because, I think about all these guys who I respect. Obviously, you have a great career in the 10th Mountain Division, one of the manliest names divisions anybody could ever come up with. Our vice president served. And one of my great regrets in life is that I didn't do it. And I think that there is a new generation of people who seem like they're like, hell yeah, I want to be a part of what you're doing. And I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about recruitment because we hear so much of the stats and everybody's like, rah, rah, oh yeah, recruitment's up. But is that really happening? Are people really signing up now in numbers that they hadn't been in a while?
So we look at it kind of 2 ways. So recruitment is kind of I would say a leading indicator of a successful organization or army. And so for our recruitment numbers on new people joining, we hit our 12-month goal in 7 months.
Wow.
And when you go to basic training and you talk to these recruits, they're incredible. They're brilliant. They're smart. They are tech savvy in a way that just comes from that generation, and we need them. But the number that I actually look to that I find almost equal or more important is our retention number.
Yeah.
And so these are the soldiers that get to see through the bullshit. They get to see,
They've
you the type
it.
of organization? Are you guys the type of leaders that I am willing to spend my time on this earth being a part of? And that number is on fire. So we hit our 12-month retention goal 6 months into the year, which I take as a sign that our Sergeant Major of the Army, our Chief of Staff of the Army, our leaders throughout our formations are actually doing the kinds of leadership that make men and women want to continue to serve. And that to me is, I'm incredibly excited about that trailing indicator of a healthy organization.
Man, that's great to hear.
And also, you mentioned that you'd gone to Ranger School. What was that experience like?
So
I saw the Sean Ryan interview, so this is an awesome story, everyone. It's on me.
So it's like it's just by far the hardest thing. Like, I grew up a middle class kid in the mountains of North Carolina. My wife has said many times, even before this job, she would never have married me if I had done the Army.
My wife says the same thing.
Yeah, so it's like,
but it has nothing to do with the Army. It's just me.
Yeah, that's I get it. I'm not judging. You seem amazing. You seem amazing. But Ranger School is just spectacularly hard. So it kind of pushes you to this place where most people, I think, on average, lose 25 or 30 pounds in 62 days. You're cold, you're hungry, you're suffering, and it actually just breaks you, at least for me.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment where you say, I cannot physically do it. I remember climbing up a hill, you're carrying a big weapon. I slipped down. I couldn't stand up. There was nothing I could do in that moment. It was like, oh my God, like, I am at the end of what I'm capable of. Dudes grabbed the weapon, and then I remember I'll just like, they hugged me, and for 10 minutes they're holding me because I'm shaking so much because it's so cold, and they like calm me down, and like we keep on going. And it's just this moment you look back on in life, and you can pinpoint kind of two lessons there. One, everyone breaks at some point, so maybe give them some grace and just help them along. And then two, you just kind of can't do life alone. Like, it's a pretty difficult thing. And what the Army does uniquely well, I think, is it builds these teams where you start to rely on each other for everything. And it kind of, you lose your own personal identity in a lot of ways, but you get in exchange for that this kind of unbelievable teamwork mentality that has forever altered how I look at working with other people.
It's such a good point. What a great story. I mean, look, that's why we have a 4-man deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm jealous of you guys.
If any one of us had to do this 3 days a week by ourselves, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's that whole teamwork component that makes you a little bit better, drives you a little bit further. And you guys have taken this from the Army standpoint to also reinforce it with a whole bunch of things that you're doing underneath it from an administrative standpoint that makes people believe that you're trying to be more efficient, more effective, more for the people who are enlisted in doing the job.
I think one of the things the bureaucracy rewards so much, and this is across probably every bureaucracy, but certainly our federal government and definitely the Army, there's really only one way that you could hurt your career in the last 30 years. Do a thing and have it go wrong. And so the two ways you can succeed from avoiding that consequence is do a thing and have it go right, but just as equally successful for your career is do nothing.
Wow.
So we've trained an entire class of bureaucrat that for an entire 30-year career, if you do nothing, you're fine. You're going to make it to the end of the race. And it's this like kind of catastrophic existence that exists that people have just gotten to this mentality that they know everything, and they don't realize that the greater threat is actually not doing a thing and having it go wrong. The greater threat is doing nothing, because right now our soldiers are being failed in so many ways.
What a great point. I mean, I think that's a Washington disease.
I agree.
I mean, I think that's not just how we've dealt with the Pentagon and everything else. It's cascading across politics itself. We always used to say it about political consultants, where it's like, you hear the same drivel out of every candidate, right, left, and center. And it's like, well, this is what we say because this doesn't fail. But there's no authenticity and no risk.
Yeah. And I think from my experience on the campaign, watching the vice president, and when the overlap would occur, and obviously we watched the president a lot, they're authentic.
Yes.
Like, if you look at the number of interactions, I actually said this on record the other day, and I would guess that if you compare the number of minutes that President Trump is speaking to a live camera feed with people asking questions that he is not planting, I would guess it's 50x his predecessor. I remember when the vice president was going into his debate and we were looking at the number of questions, like they call them hostile questions, but it's really just a question you don't know what's coming, that he had done compared to Tim Walz. And I think it was like 850 to like 18.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's like, that's good government. It's actually this, like, what the American people want.
Totally.
Is the transparency and the authenticness with which the president and the vice president interact with the world.
And also actually just getting out there and do, like, I see images online, like, on X, of whether it's you, whether it's Secretary Hegseth, getting out there, going to the bases, doing exercises with them, running the same courses as them. What's that experience been like?
It's incredible, and it's actually where you learn. And spending time, it's a same coin, two sides of it. One side of the coin is spending time with soldiers fills you up. I mean, it is truly the joy of a lifetime. I've told my kids that there are many things I can give them in life. I can't give them what a lot of these men and women who have chosen to dedicate their entire lives to service can give them. Like the impact on shaping my kids at this age, I'm so grateful that they get to experience that. The flip side of the coin is you see all the places where we've failed them, and you see all the brokenness. And by not reading it in a PowerPoint, by not sitting in the Pentagon on a leather chair and letting people just brief you about how good everything is, because it's become a very performative system over the last 30 years because we haven't faced an existential threat. When you get out there with soldiers and you go see the broken equipment and you see that it is a $6 part that is taking down a Black Hawk, and then you see that the provider of that $6 button won't replace the button, but they're making us buy a $40,000 replacement for the entire screen.
Drives you insane, I bet.
You're so mad. Like it takes you from like a 6 to a 47 on the 1 to 10 scale.
Is that what has driven your sense of urgency? Because I mean, look, not a lot of people in your position, as you said, people, if you fail to come up with a new idea, nobody punishes you. If you have a new idea that not everybody loves, like that's the punishment point. But you walked in for this full transformational journey within the Army very aggressively. You guys are pursuing that. I imagine that urgency comes from what you just described.
I think there's some part of it is the risk right now with China, and we actually as a nation are facing a threat from a peer that we have not faced in a long time. Like my kids and their kids, like they will have to pay the price if we don't get ourselves ready, or they may have to. I think the second thing is because these are my friends, it is my friends that are feeling it. It is my own nephew that is in. These are the people I care about and I love, and we're at my wedding and I will be at theirs and our life events. This is for them. And then the third one is back to President Trump. He is, if now is the time to do it. He is saying, and even just look at what he's doing for soldiers during the shutdown. He is saying, I'm going to find a way to keep them getting paid because he cares so deeply about our American soldier. And he is empowering us to act in a way that I don't think any other administration has done in a very long time. And so I owe a duty to try to take advantage of that.
That's really well said.
Last thing I want to say along those lines of how President Trump has acted, one of them has been engaging the National Guard here in Washington, D.C. And I just want, I've talked about this a million times at this point, maybe tiring, but I'm just so grateful for that. Because just mere blocks from here, where there's they play hockey and basketball, a guy got murdered at like 5 in the afternoon a few months ago, shot in the face. That was just like another day. A block away, open air drug market. All that is gone. All of it is gone. This city it used to be a year ago in winter. I remember it was 3 in the afternoon on a Sunday in Georgetown. Someone got robbed at gunpoint for their jacket. Like it was lawlessness. And what you and President Trump and what the National Guard have done out there has been incredible. Lives are being saved. And for folks who live or D.C., whenever you see someone from the National Guard out there, you thank them. I thank them every time because they are saving lives, and it is incredible. It's unbelievable the transformation this city has had.
Well, and I think if you look at that, this to me highlights why traditional media seems to be struggling so much with the average American viewer. Everything has become slippery slope argument, and everything is clickbait. And I understand the incentive structure, and no doubt you make more money the more views of here, but like that of people watching this. But everyone has basically said the president was sending them in for some or many traditional media sources. The president was sending them in for some sort of militaristic. When they looked at the Army 250 parade, it was going to be tanks were going to destroy the streets.
Oh no!
This was like they were doing a dry run for like actually like taking over DC. We ended up having $850 worth of damage. We had 140 million
Is that right?
plus viewers. Our recruiting skyrocketed, and so if you look at the National Guard deployment and this slippery slope argument, what I have tried to point out to the media is they keep telling us the scary, bad thing that could happen. And then when the president comes in and does the thing he said he was going to do, and it actually leads to the things he said, when you talk to D.C. leaders behind closed doors, and I meet with them all the time at the White House, they're so excited. Their police are so excited because they want to fix their community. They want to fix their city. And what's amazing about the National Guard is it serves these dual purposes that the active duty just typically doesn't. And the active duty is purpose-built for us to send them out to to either from our border face out or to go deploy somewhere in the world to
Yeah.
defend us.
Yeah.
The National Guard has this dual use where they can be used in their own cities and their own states and their own communities, and they can make where they grow, their kids grow up and where they go to church better.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk to the soldiers here, they love it. When you go on runs, I do it every weekend. I go on a long run, and there are so many selfies being taken with our
Mhm.
Guard soldiers. And what I have tried to tell everyone is if you are falling for this narrative that it is bad, before you believe what the media is telling you, go talk to people. Walk around the neighborhoods, talk to the neighbors in the community, talk to the soldiers, talk to the police on the Metro Police who are so thrilled at what's happening, because I totally agree.
Yeah, look, that's important stuff. Here's what I appreciate. We'll wrap it with this. You've got a serious mission. You talked about how angry you were at how you found everything. You guys have been incredibly aggressive with a sense of urgency about changing things on the dime for the American soldier. And yet you got a good sense of humor, which is like, look, I think it's kind
Can you
of
tell my wife?
I think it's a kind of a hallmark of
And you
this
forgot to say good
administration.
looking.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to say good looking.
Handsome as the
There
day
we
is
go, there
long,
we go.
Dan.
Thank you.
But that, like, just keep it at it, because it makes it so much easier for the average person to consume when they get a guy like you telling them what it is that you're doing than somebody who's just like barking at them about the way things used to be and how it can never change. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Let's keep in touch. We'll go shoot some stuff later.
It's going to be awesome. I'm grateful for you all. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just an A-plus personality. You can see why J.D. Vance is friends with the guy, because he is very, very easy to talk to, plain-spoken and funny as the day is long.
Yeah, and also I think it's like an undercard component, the very serious work that they're doing to try to make our military relevant in this day and age.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right?
more responsive to like warfare in this century.
Yeah, and that protects our soldiers.
Right.
Like, that's the thing that I like. Democrats, first of all, I mean, look, I grew up in a day and age where there was two parties, one that believed in the military, one that doesn't. I still believe that to be true. The difference is that the Democrats always view this as like a, march to the front line, Civil War type. You pull your rifle out 6 yards ahead of the other guy and shoot. And they're like, oh, what do we do to do? We got to take care of them after they do that kind of thing. And when Republicans are in charge, in particular Donald Trump, they rethink that. And they look at conflicts that are going on in Ukraine. They look at what's happened in the Middle East. They look at the challenge of China, and they try to retrofit their force and their power to a point where you can protect Americans in the same way that Ronald Reagan talked about.
That's right.
In
Peace
the
through strength.
1980s. Peace through strength. And that goes a long way for me. Knowing that we've got a guy who is interested and persistent in doing it, because change in the Pentagon is about as difficult as anything you can imagine. There are institutions that are like, well, we've always done it this way. That's why we're going to do it. Our contracts are the same. We just anticipate this. And then you get a whole bunch of people who throw out Oppo, and you get the Ken Delanians of the world and everybody else who are like, oh, they're changing things and they're making us weak. And like, no, if you listen to that guy in his interview for 2 minutes, his whole point is to try to protect the American people and protect the American soldier to ensure that they can fight a next generation war if necessary. And they hope it's not necessary.
Yeah, Democrats over the last decade or so have started prioritizing contractors over warfighters. And why do they do that? Because they want the money and the campaign contributions that come from the contractors. What Pete Hegseth, what President Trump, what Dan Driscoll are doing is prioritizing warfighters over contractors. And so that upsets the apple cart of official Washington. It upsets the apple cart of what Democrats have worked for over the past decade. And it's natural. It's natural, but it's also the right thing to do. Warfighters, the soldiers, they're the reason that, that's what when people pay their taxes to the federal government for men and women to defend them, they envision, I'm paying my taxes to cover a guy or a woman's paycheck, not to cover.
You don't think it's a Booz Allen contract?
Yeah, right. They're not like I need to cover the third garage on somebody's house in Great Falls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they
100%.
They're paying for people to help them out.
He's a hell of a guy, and we're gonna do more stuff with Driscoll because he's just I couldn't get enough. I wish we could have hung out with him for a couple hours. He was fantastic. So remember, our question of the day is: if a progressive leftist has to get a tattoo for their political career, what would it be? You're going to have some great ideas on that. When you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety program, we read every single one and get back to you the very next episode. This is absolutely a fantastic week to be alive here for Ruthless. This is what we do for a living. Oh, God, I just love every minute. You got Fun Time Friday coming up next. With that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much to Secretary Driscoll, and thank you to the Minions. Remember, if you have not yet, go to the YouTube, hit subscribe because it's more fun in video. So until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you Friday. Stay ruthless.